In less than 24 hours, the GOAT returns. And there's a good chance the millions of you watching right now around the world have sprinkled a little something on Big Cat. Look at this. The most bet golfer in the DK Sportsbook to win the Masters. Top 5 finish, top 20 finish, make the cut, and miss the cut. Oh, my God. What would we do without this man? The man who was the needle in said Masters and golf world. What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzia. Jesse's dog still has violent raging diarrhea, so she is not here this morning. But you know who is? DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed T. Fowler, and the newest addition to the gorgeous golf gurus, Pierce Dietrich.
Wow.
Reed, by the way, who after his 2-minute rant on yesterday's show about not having enough Masters content in the program and our producers burying it constantly, gets his wish. So not only are you guys leading this award-winning program, but we'll have you back later to discuss DFS salaries. Because right now, we have best bets to get to. Believe it or not here, Reed T. Fowler, there are some other guys who are playing in the tournament besides Tiger. So let's talk about 2021 FedEx Cup champion Patrick Cantley. He enters the Masters with plus 2,500 odds to win. Missed the cut at the Players. That was his last tournament. That was his last time out. What are the chances you see maybe like a bounce-back performance from him here? Or do you like other options in this price range, betting range?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Patrick Cantley. And you talk about moving the needle, Tiger Woods, for golf. It seems like I am the needle mover for the Sweat, getting us 2 segments and adding another familiar face in Pierce Dietrich. Excited to hear what he has to say about this tournament. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Cantley, you take a look at what he's done. Look, it hasn't been great in majors for Cantley. But what you need here, and Dustin Johnson just said this on Sirius XM PGA Tour Radio, that you need to take advantage of the par 5s on this course, which is, that's not rocket science. And guess who's number 2 in the field in strokes gained par 5 over the last 24 rounds? It's Patrick Cantley, right? This guy was, him and John Rahm early in their season were like light years ahead of everybody in strokes gained tee to green. It's just been a little bit of a dip, which is what we see with every golfer, is that you can't stay at the top for too long because these guys are really good. But I don't mind it at all. I mean, the guys that I do like in this range more, Kyle Brooks, I'm going to side with them a little bit more. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cantley's up there.
All right, Jeff, what are you doing around this plus 2,500 range, dude?
I mean, I don't think there's actually much argument. Like, the best value among the top players this week is probably Patrick Cantley. He's plus 2,500. And why are people necessarily off him? Well, I mean, he finished T33 and then a missed cut in his last 2 strokes play events. So much like Rory Mcinerney, whose odds are also at plus 2,000 and ballooned a little bit, he's just coming in with like a couple mediocre results. But you look at Patrick Cantley's body of work, he obviously won against the elite fields in the playoffs. He had a pretty good start to the year where he just missed grabbing a win. I mean, he sinks 1 putt at the Phoenix Open, and you feel like Patrick Cantley's odds are probably closer to plus 1,800 this week. So I think Cantley is absolutely fine. I think he's got just as good a shot as most of the top players this week. He's been in contention down the stretch at Augusta before. He actually had the lead here very briefly. I think it was back in 2018 or 2019. So Cantley's fine. He's got the all-around game that can grab a win here. Absolutely. It's just he doesn't have that like screeching recent form that maybe like a guy like Scottie Scheffler does. But I think value-wise, if you're betting 2 guys from this range, I absolutely don't mind adding Patrick Cantley at all, because at plus 2,500, he's got the biggest odds.
Okay, Pierce, new to the program and to the Gorgeous Golf Guru segment. What do you think about Patrick Cantley here, plus 2,500 odds, dude?
If I agree with the experts, is that a bad sign? I mean, that means that the experts agree with me. I don't know. Yeah, he looks pretty good. I know the current form is not there, but at comparable courses, he's played well. Top 20 tee to green, top 20 in off the tee, putting, it all checks out. But hey, I'm a sucker for Jordan Spieth. I like the course history. I like the way they closed out the Valero in spite of a bad putting day. That is a concern, but these guys have mentioned it all week. The greens are so tough at the Masters. We've seen bad putters end up having good performances and win here. Jordan Spieth, when he won in 2018, he was not putting well that season. He finished 3rd that year, so I like Spieth a lot.
Spieth was gushing over Hideki Matsuyama's like championship dinner menu last night too. Yeah, Reed, you love that as well, didn't you? You love all that sushi. Reminds you a lot of home, that menu.
Oh man, I would have gone with the butterfish though, as opposed to the cod for the misoyaki, but Hey, cod's not bad. I get it. You can't, the Constitution, like some of these guys are not used to that kind of food. So you don't want to put something that's a little too foreign into their stomachs right for like 2 days before Augusta National.
Well, Fowler, what do you think about Hideki's plus 3,500 odds here? Because he had that withdrawal. I think it was the second round of the Valero. Like, there's some major injury concerns with this dude, but do you think this could offer up a good opportunity to actually bet the guy?
Not really. Look, it's extreme. Like, look, outside of the injury, it's really hard to win back-to-back, right? Tiger's done it, and that's like when you talk about currently of the people in the modern game, that's really the only guy to do it. So outside of that, now you have the issues with the neck that you've seen the kinesiology tape on the guy over the last 2 weeks. He withdrew at the Players, then he did the I'm only going to play 27 holes and then withdraw from the Valero. So you just can't take that, on face value. And there's a ton of injury concerns for a lot of guys, right, this year. Paul Casey, Bryson DeChambeau, Hideki Matsuyama. I'm going to go away from all of that and go to my guy Daniel Berger in that same range at plus 4,000. I just like where his head's at, and where his game's at, excuse me. And if the winds in the forecast do stay, which looks like Friday and Saturday is going to be fairly windy, this guy in proximity, when you talk about windy conditions, he's one of the best with his irons. So, and he was there at the Players, just, a bad ruling here on Sunday with the bad group and some other stuff kind of got in the way, but I like Berger in that range.
Man, Jeff, he was playing some great golf, too, that win in Japan last fall. And let's not forget that playoff victory over your dude, Russell Henley, at the Sony Open in January. But also, Henley also has the same odds as Hideki.
He does, and he's probably actually a better bet this week. I don't think you should bet either of them. I don't think Russ is quite long enough to win this week. Maybe as a first-round leader bet, but Hideki is just plus 35. It's just not big enough to bet a guy who's withdrawn from 2 tournaments in a row. I mean, Hideki was actually playing really nicely before, so it's kind of a shame. But Reed's right. Berger's the play here at plus 4,000. He top 10'd at Augusta the first time he played it, a few years back. I think it was actually back in 2016, so more than a few years now. But that's who I've liked at these odds for a while. I mean, I've always said that Daniel Berger, or I've said this year, Daniel Berger just seems to be getting disrespected. He's got, a couple wins over the last 2 years. And yet his odds always seem to be double a lot of these guys. Bigger than Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris doesn't even have a PGA Tour win. He's got shorter odds than Daniel Berger. So I think Berger at plus 4,000 is definitely this is the play that you want. If his odds are going to be bigger than Hideki, do it. You can also double dip at the plus 2K range. We were already going over guys, but Hideki for me is an absolute no-go this week.
And Pierce, I just don't know how anyone can be confident in this guy's health right now.
I am.
Oh.
Most back pain is psychosomatic. If Hideki reads
John
my
Sarno's
God book on healing back pain, healed my back pain, he cured Ben Crane. These guys are laughing, but anyone out there who really has back pain, they really should read his book. It's psychological, folks. Read the book. Understand.
Or just watch Doctor Strange if you believe in this kind of stuff.
Well, you believe in science? I don't know what to tell you. Read the book. Anyway, so if he is able to tee off and he gets started off well, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to put the back pain in the rearview mirror. And so maybe I don't make the bet, but in DFS, you're going to get low ownership. He is affordable. We know what his upside is. If he can get over the psychological back pain, he'll absolutely crush.
Wow, Pierce, how's your bet?
I love Pierce incorporating the when not DFSing narrative here, bringing in the books, but it's a neck injury. So if you have healing neck injuries, then a book, then I mean I know they're connected. I understand that.
Syndrome, TMS, look it up.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, look, this is why we bring in Pierce. He's got to bring in the obscure stats. I love it.
Dr. Dietrich, man. Weird flex. We get it. You read books, dude. We get it. Hey, let's stay in that plus 3,500 range here. Pierce, Willie Z. Like, why are people not talking about him?
Well, they are talking about him. I'm hearing his name on all kinds of DFS golf podcasts. Here's a little tip for the normies out there. You can pull transcripts from YouTube videos and just search for Willie Z's name, and you're going to see it pop up about, basically every time. And the experts are about 50-50 on him. So with DFS, I don't think I would go there. His ownership's going to be a little bit high. But if that many experts like his chances this weekend, then I think he's worth the bet. And the knock against him is his putting. But as these guys have mentioned all week, the greens are so tough that it's kind of an equalizer. And we have seen poor putters perform well. If he does everything else correct, he definitely has a chance.
Okay, Jeff, one shot short of a playoff in his bid to win the Masters. That was his first try last April.
Great story. Asking people for Will Zalatoris to replicate that magic 2 years in a row, you're just asking for trouble, man. I mean, he's a great young player. He really is. He's going to win on the PGA Tour at some point. He shouldn't be plus 3,500 in the outright market. We just don't see players like this just come in and win their second time through, unless it's Jordan Spieth. So you're basically telling me that Will Zalatoris is going to grab his first PGA Tour win this week at the Masters. I'm sorry, I just can't get there. I think Zalatoris had a fantastic week with the irons and the putter last year at the Masters. We've seen his putter let him down in numerous spots already. So plus 3,500. We already talked about Berger, so I don't really need to tell you who you should be betting. It's just, Pierce mentioned, like, people are still high on him, and that's fine. But one of the hardest things in golf is to back up a top finish, especially at this major at Augusta. There's so much pressure. You come here, the expectations are ramped up. Where's Will Zalatoris have to go from here? It's win or done. So I think there's just too much expectations on him this year. It's just not the spot I'd want. You should be looking for Will Zalatoris to maybe win one of these regular PGA Tour events before you get too excited about backing him in majors. That's my take.
Reed, over his last 24 rounds, though, he's first in the field in strokes gained tee to green. I mean, that's huge considering the setup, right, for 7,500 yards?
Yeah, I mean, it also you got to take into account what this course is, which it's an anomaly. You have some correlations to it in terms of the green type, the undulations that it's like towards Kapalua, right? But it's in its own vacuum. And Zalatoris played fantastic last year. It was great, right, at coming runner-up. And you also take a look on difficult courses. He's only second, right, I believe, to Colin Morikawa in strokes gained approach in terms of strokes gained. So there are cases to be made for Zalatoris. But I'm with Jeff. I mean, you talk about this course specifically, it is extremely hard. And you talk about those 4-foot putts, and I've been outspoken on Twitter about guys missing 4-foot putts, 3-foot putts. This is a place you cannot do it.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot do it. If you're not, well equipped, and guys who weren't coming in great form putting and then putted well also have had experience here more than just 1 year. This is Rory McIlroy's 14th time at Augusta, and he still hasn't won. I don't think that we can say that Zalatoris, while a great young player, and maybe next year, like what Scotty Scheffler is doing now, if you look at what he's done over the last 2 years, it kind of led up to what he's doing. Zalatoris is going to be a great player, but not this week.
All right, guys, need you very quick here on this last one. Who's someone you're going to be fading at Augusta this week, Jeff?
I'm going to fade Colin Morikawa. This has not worked out well if you faded Colin Morikawa in majors recently, but I'm going to fade him this week. Doesn't have a ton of experience, hasn't been great around the greens or with the putter at all lately, and I think that'll catch up to him, especially if it gets windy and everyone starts missing greens.
All right, Pierce.
Tiger Woods, he's too old. I know he won just a couple years ago, but going into that event, he was really hot. He hasn't played in almost over a year, so no Woods for me.
Okay, not Pierce. You're Pierce. Reed.
Me and the father-in-law are fading Louis.
Yes.
No. In all seriousness, Cam Smith. He's been playing great, but he's just too expensive in the odds and DFS.
Okay. That was funny, the text that you shared on Twitter from your father-in-law.
That was unprovoked, by the way. That was out of the blue. It was fantastic.
All right. I didn't know if he was low-key trolling Jeff there.
Nope.
All right. Good stuff, guys. Pierce, you're free to go. Jeff and Reed, stick around because we are going to do another golf segment because Reed has demanded it. We'll talk more DFS salaries with Len Hochberg coming up later in the show. Right after this break, though, we're going to talk taters. Lots and lots of taters on the diamond.
That's baseball.
Here. In just over 24 hours from now, the 2022 first pitch of the 2022 Major League Baseball season will be tossed. Actually, could be a little later than that because the Red Sox and Yankees opening day has already been postponed to Friday. But what you're looking at here, multiple hitters in action this year are theoretically in striking distance of the 300 career home run mark. So Paul Goldschmidt, the top 20 away. Why are we showing you this list? Because the DK Sportsbook has a section for season milestones, and we're going through some of them right meow. Our baseball panel this morning, DraftKings contributor, Steve Buchanan. We also have the biggest Dante Culpepper stan on the planet, Gary and Thorne. Yeah, former Miami Dolphins quarterback, but also the 26th round pick of the Yankees in the 1995 amateur draft. That's a conversation for another day. What are the odds, guys, that the following players here hit these milestones in the 2022 baseball season? I do want to start by going back to that list. Let's go to Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper at 267. So he would need 33 taters to get there. The reigning NL MVP, minus 165 odds on the DK Sportsbook to do it. Do you expect him to do it, though, Steve?
I mean, barring an injury that takes him out for a prolonged amount of time, this is somebody who's gone over that number in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And the only reason that one season he didn't go over is because COVID took over the world and took away half of the baseball season. If you take his numbers and what he was on pace for in that season, he was once again going to exceed that number as he was on pace for 36 home runs through a 162 game season. So that being said, and with the odds set as they are, because this is basically giving you an implied probability of 63% of this happening, I would absolutely be taking the over on this one in a much improved Phillies lineup, by the way. It's not like there's a lot of easy outs at the top of that lineup. So everything is pointing to Bryce Harper going over this number. He should easily reach the 300 mark this season.
Okay, you think it's going to be that easy, Garion?
Yeah, I'm pretty in on most Bryce Harper overs this year. As Steve said, you always have to put out that disclaimer that injury could definitely ruin this. But I think the lineup protection thing is really big when it comes to someone like Harper specifically. I mean, you look at his zone rate since the beginning of 2020, which is essentially a metric that counts how many pitches does this batter see actually inside the strike zone. He has the 3rd lowest qualified rate across the last 2 seasons because pitchers have never had to pitch to this guy because the Phillies are constantly injured. He's now going to have Nick Castellanos hitting behind him. He's now going to have Kyle Schwarber possibly hitting behind him, more likely hitting ahead of him. But still, there's going to be protection here. I think Harper's going to get more pitches to see. And I honestly think there's a case to be made that, like, Bryce Harper's been the best hitter in baseball the last 2 seasons. I mean, he's top 3 in expected WOBA in both of those seasons. He led baseball in expected WOBA last year. He's also like, spring training stats are spring training stats, but I swear every time I look at Twitter, Bryce Harper's just hit a home run this spring. Like, I think this is really going to be a massive year from Harper. I think he could maybe pass this mark in like August, if we're being honest.
Okay, Steve, JD Martinez, your dude, plus odds here, plus 185 to hit that milestone. He's going to need 34 home runs in order to hit that 300 home run mark. Are the odds worth giving this a shot?
I think I need longer odds on this one. Like, really, if you look at since when JD Martinez joined the Boston Red Sox, his home run totals have plummeted each year. Started off with 43, then for 36. COVID came, was on pace for only 21 that year throughout a full season, and then 28 last year. So, yes, he's always in that realm, right? But 34 home runs seems like a bit of a stretch for him at this point. He's coming into this season. He's obviously getting a little bit older. I think he's going to be 35 this year when August comes around. Not ancient by any means. I'm 35, okay? So it's not like that's an ancient age by any means. But looking at that and his performance, I don't think that that's enough to get him at 34, which would be an anomaly for what he's really been hitting over the past few seasons. So he's going to be around that mark. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends with 28, 29, but 34 seems like a bit of a stretch, so I'd be fading that one.
Bit of a stretch, Garion?
I do like that it's at plus money, but I'm going to echo what Steve was saying. If this was like maybe plus 210, plus 225, I'd be a little bit more intrigued because obviously JD Martinez has the potential to hit 35 home runs this season. But, you look at his 2020 stats and you can probably throw those away. I think that's kind of like an outlier season where clearly there was some the use of video technology in the dugout. We all know that narrative with JD Martinez, and he came out on fire to begin last season, had 9 home runs in the month of April. But after that, I mean, if you look at his second half statistics, he had a 199 isolated power, he had a 105 WRC plus. Like, these are perfectly acceptable marks, but they're not really up to the standard that we've become used to with JD Martinez. He's going to be 35, like Steve mentioned, in August, right as Bryce Harper is hitting his 300th home run. You do start worrying about bat speed a little bit. I will say the fact that he is probably going to be like the primary DH for the Red Sox, it is nice in the injury sense here where he's probably going to play. You can probably pencil him in for like 150 games this season, so he's got that going for him. But I would want this number a little higher if I was going to bet on it.
Okay, speaking of a higher number, Albert Pujols here, guys, to hit the 700 home run plateau. I mean, it's going to get some time there at DH, no question, for the Cardinals now, as the National League is rocking the DH position. He's returning to St. Louis to close out his career. Plus 800, Garion, to get to 700. 21 homers, that's all he would need. It's a part-time role. You think that's too much to ask? Or are we going to see some magic here in a fairy tale season?
So, like, there's no fun saying this isn't going to happen. This is plus 800. Like, obviously the book realizes this is pretty unlikely. So let's make the case for it just for fun. Pujols last season crushed left-handed pitching to the extent that he was averaging a home run once every 10.5 at bats against a left-handed pitcher. For context, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who led baseball with 48 home runs, averaged a home run every 12.6 at bats last season. Small sample, obviously. It was relying on like a 20% home run to fly ball ratio, which would be Pujols' highest mark since 2009. But if he's really just going to get at bats against left-handed pitchers and he's able to recreate his success from last season, there's like an outside chance he gets there. He's probably going to get some days at DH against right-handed pitching as well. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But, you know, if you want to have some fun with this one, it's plus 800. Like, this is someone who was mashing home runs off of lefties better than virtually anyone else in baseball just last year.
Steve, he is how old now? 42?
42.
Hasn't hit 20-plus home runs since 2019 here. 16 last year.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing, too. Like, he did that. It was 17 last year. He did that as a quote-unquote part-timer. Played in 109 games, had 296 plate appearances, still was able to hit 17 home runs. Once upon a time, the odds for this were 10-1. They've dropped down now to 8-1. People want to have fun in 2022. So what better than chasing somebody who is on their farewell tour to hit and reach this milestone? For also something else to note, he's also 63 RBIs away from tying Babe Ruth for the second most in Major League Baseball history. You're telling me the Cardinals aren't going to give him the opportunities to try to at least tie or exceed both of these records. And with how this team is laid out right now, they have their 3 outfielders. Corey Dickerson and the outfielders are going to be kind of rotating in the DH spot. Pujols is going to get his starts at DH. I think he goes over this number here. The odds are really enticing, obviously. Yeah. They were 10-1, obviously 8-1. Still good here for somebody to hit at least 21 home runs on their farewell tour. I'm all about it. Give me that 8-1.
Yeah, I feel like just the Cardinals are gonna be like, just get out there and hit like every day. They definitely want to see that happen in a Cardinals uniform for sure. Let's talk more than just home run milestones, dudes. We have like hit, strikeout, and wins milestones as well. So Adam Wainwright, 16 victories away from 200 in his career. Clayton Kershaw, 15 from that mark. Wainwright plus 500 to get there. Steve, Kershaw needing one less win, plus 400. So do you like either guy to make it?
Look, when you look at Kershaw, I'm not the biggest Kershaw fan. I think that's very well known.
Yeah.
But with that being said, okay, that NL West against lefties, they weren't really strong against them last year. According to WRC Plus last year, the Diamondbacks, Padres, and Rockies all ranked no higher than 19th against lefties last year. And now we have a Dodgers team that has the highest over-under win total on the board by a mile. 97.5 is the win total for them. For context, the Blue Jays are the next in line, and they're at 91.5. So taking anything under, even for something as fluky as wins, for a starting pitcher on the Dodgers is just asking for it. Now, personally, I would much rather take the over 11.5 win total that Kershaw has said this year. I know obviously injuries are a concern, but if he's healthy behind that team, he is absolutely going to go over double-digit wins, because when he is healthy, he's going at usually 6 or 7 innings. That's more than enough to get the win. So I'd be more apt to take over 11.5 wins, but I think with the plus money here too as well, it's something to consider, but the injury concern is large. So that's why I'd rather take the lower number at 11.5 for Kershaw.
Gary, and which dude would you prefer to bet here?
I think it's got to be Kershaw. I mean, we're coming off a season where the only 20-game winner was on the Dodgers. Like, it's the same logic can be used here. And for as unpredictable, as capricious as wins tend to be, you can kind of track throughout Kershaw's recent career, like not even Pete Kershaw, he still gets a ton of W's. Like, if you go back to the start of the 2019 season, he started 60 games in that 3-season span. He's won 32 times. He's winning 53% of his starts. That is an absurd win rate for a starting pitcher in today's version of baseball. So this bet is sort of like plus 400. Does Clayton Kershaw start 26, 28 games this season? And I don't think those are terrible odds. I'm with Steve. Like, I think I'd rather just take the 11.5. That's way more likely. But yeah, I think plus 400 is pretty good for Kershaw, because this Dodgers team is just so good. Just make it through 5 innings, and you're probably going to pick up that W.
All right, baseball guys, appreciate you, love you. But just a heads up, you two, no longer the only baseball guys with this glorious company of ours, because there's a new sheriff in town.
Baseball is the greatest game in the world. I've been a baseball fan my whole life. I loved it from the first day that I discovered it. I think what makes me different is that it's authentic. I care. That passion is infectious. Putting everything that you have into it and then seeing that it's enjoyed by that many people. I mean, I don't know what could be more rewarding than that. The reason why I came to DraftKings, I saw an opportunity to showcase what me, my co-hosts, do with baseball. Right now, there's never been more young, exciting stars rubbing it in the faces of people who think that the sport's dead. We're here to show you that it's not. When people say, you know, oh, this is my life, like, no. Like, this is my life.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Let's go Sox.
By the way, Jared Carabas will be joining us live here on The Sweat tomorrow, an excellent thirsty Thursday edition of The Sweat. So go ahead and mark your calendars. You really don't need to, because hopefully you can remember that it's just in like 24 hours from now. Let's talk some NBA, though. Let's punch up the Western Conference standings, because something happened last night. And there is nothing out there. There's nothing out there that unites this planet more than when the Lakers are absolute trash. All they had to do was beat the Suns last night, and they would stay alive in the playoff race for the play-in. This is like really sad. And you know what? They didn't. So now it's like LeBron James like, hey, you got any more of them playoff spots? Our analyst this morning, Jeff Pratt, DraftKings contributor Jeff Pratt, and Mr. Nick Fryer. Nick, did you wait up late last night to watch the demise become official?
No, because you know already that they're matched up against the Suns, whether they're going to rest guys or not. You know, you say all they had to do was beat the Suns. The Suns are one of the best teams in all of basketball right now. So, yeah, of course. And the Lakers are just an absolute dumpster fire. And as a guy who grew up in Boston, you know, I will say that I do feel terribly for Lakers fans. This is awful to see. You bring in a superstar and you expect him to win games, win titles, and he's only done it once out of 4 years. And the other 3 years, it's been, you know, been pretty useless. And you bring in another superstar in AD, who, of course, was outstanding in New Orleans. So this is very sad.
Oh, yeah, I know you Celtics fans absolutely love to see this pain, don't you? This brings you joy, doesn't it, Pratt?
Absolutely. I don't have too much to add, but I think you guys know where I stand on this issue, Emerson. So I had a good night last night. I didn't need to watch the game because, like Nick said, I knew it was going to happen. But it was fun waking up this morning.
I mean, Pratt, like real talk, how disappointing though is this like overall? Because they had like I believe it was the second best odds, right? Was it behind the Nets or did they have the best odds? They were like top 2, like top 3 for sure. Like I don't know if we've seen something like this before, at least in recent memory, right? Like a collapse like this, or I guess not meeting expectations.
It's absolutely brutal, and considering the draft capital that they gave up to assemble this team and what they're looking at for the next few years, because they're going to look to offload Russell Westbrook. At least they're going to have to explore that. His contract's huge, so good luck doing that. Anthony Davis is extremely injury prone. Nick was saying LeBron, father time catches up to everyone, and when LeBron plays, he still looks like he's in his prime, but he's missing more and more games every year. The injuries, ticky-tack injuries, are beginning to pile up. So it's not great for Lakers fans, and I can't say it's going to get better considering the draft picks they have moving forward, or lack thereof, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know if the immediate future, Fryer, looks very bright for the Lakers. A lot of big question marks there, and doesn't look like, as Mr. Pratt just mentioned, a lot of capital there to restore confidence. But let's talk about tonight's 6-game slate here. Nick, who is your favorite big man to build around here? Like, which dude would you start at center?
So, of course, we had a big night last night, of course, with Jokic, of course, a guy you have to always consider rostering every single night. But then tonight, it looks a lot cheaper. Of course, you don't have those studs at center going. There are 2 guys that jump out to me, though. One that can save you a little bit more money, one that's on the higher end, at least, of the guys that are available tonight. Nikola Vucevic, I think, is a guy you have to consider with Robert Williams not available for the Celtics in the short term. As much as the Celtics are an elite defensive team, any big man right now that's playing, you don't have time where they're to stop him at the rim. And I know that Vucevic can stretch the floor a little bit. And Horford is an adept to handling guys like that. Same goes for Grant Williams, but still he's a presence at the rim too, and I think that's going to be tough for them to combat. And then Clint Capella is the guy who I like a little bit more, 6.3K going up against the Wizards. This is the highest total on DraftKings Sportsbook for the night. The Wizards have hit the over 6 most of any team this season. The overs hit the over in their last 4 games too. Wizards are also 25th in defensive rating, and then when you look at Capella, he's provided 5 times value or better on this price tag in 5 of his last 6 games.
Pratt, who do you like at the 5?
I'll be a little bit more blunt than Nick. This is a really ugly slate for centers. The most expensive option is Kristaps Porzingis at 8,400, and I just don't think it's worth paying up for him or Rudy Gobert. Nikola Vucevic, I consider. As Nick was saying, the Celtics don't have Robert Williams, although it is the Daniel Tice revenge game against Chicago. So take that as you will. But instead, I look at a few value options so you can pay up for another position with legit studs. Dwight Powell immediately jumps out to me at 4,700. He's checking all the boxes as a sub 5K option. He's seen an expanded usage rate over his last 3 games, is playing at least 20 minutes per game with potential to go over 30. It is coming off a huge 42.3 fantasy point performance in which he racked up 22 points and 13 boards. Isaiah Hardenstein is another cheap option I like, who's a little bit more expensive at 5,400. He scored 28 plus fantasy points in 6 of his last 8 games, establishing himself as a key rotational player for the Clippers as they gear up for a postseason run. He's played 22 or more minutes in 7 of his last 8, is really efficient, and does a lot of damage on the glass. I think throwing one of those 2 options in your lineup is a good idea.
All right, yeah, Daniel Tice turning 30 yesterday, by the way. So let's go to the forwards department here, Mr. Pratt. Who's a guy at this position you'd like to build around? I see your boy Tatum is sitting up there, one of 2 forwards north of $10,000.
He is. The top of this list of forwards is also a bit of a mess tonight, though. After KD, you've got Tatum, who's likely going to suit up, but it's not clear how much he's going to play as an important game awaits the Celtics in Milwaukee tomorrow. Kawhi and Julius Randle are obviously out. Jaylen Brown is in the same boat as Tatum, and Cade Cunningham scored 1 fantasy point last game. As a result, I think DeMar DeRozan might be your best high-priced option at 8,600. The matchup's brutal. Make no mistake about that. I'll toot Boston's horn as much as I can, but they're giving up the least amount of fantasy points to forwards in the league. That being said, we've seen that DeMar is going to get his points no matter what. The Bulls lost by 21 last night, but he still dropped 40 and finished with 52.75 DK fantasy points. He scored 50-plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games, and I'd almost expect Boston to let DeRozan do his thing and just focus on shutting down everyone else.
All right, Fryer, how expensive are you going to go here?
Yeah, this is what I'm looking at. I see one guy that it's a cheaper option that you've got to build around. I think he's got to be in your lineup tonight. And I know we're kind of chasing, recent form and everything with Jalen Horde here, but at 5K going up against Utah, we're not sure if, Rudy Gobert is going to play tonight. Even still, if he does, they're on the second leg of a back-to-back too. So that presence at the rim may not be there, may not be as effective. This guy's grabbed 20 boards in 2 of his last 3 games. And at this price tag, I think you got to take a little bit of a risk on him. And yes, he might be a little chalky tonight, but when we're looking at a guy who can somehow put up 40 DK fantasy points at this price range, I think you got to consider him. As long as the minutes are there, he's going to have the opportunities to put up those numbers. And with Utah, again, being on the second leg of a back-to-back, I like his chances a lot more to reach that ceiling.
All right, Fryer, need you guys to be quick here for building block at guard. Luka, top of this list, $12,000.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go back to that Celtics Bulls game, and I'm going to go on the Celtics side of it, going to go with Jaylen Brown. One of the bigger reasons being, you can look at all the stats, when you're talking about the value that he's put up, what he's done against Chicago this season, of course, important factors. But for me, one of the biggest things is that he is on the injury report for this game, as is Jason Tatum. Last time that happened, those 2 guys sat the next game for the Celtics. So I'm assuming that's going to happen to them again when they play the Bucks tomorrow. So I would think the Celtics aren't going to have those 2 hold back at all tonight.
Yo, Pratt, I know he's 12 grand with Luka, and saying a guy's guaranteed 60 fantasy points might sound like crazy, but he has a 62-point average over his last 24 games played.
Yeah, I saved that center so I could pay up for the most expensive player on tonight's slate. And you're exactly right, Emerson. It's Luka Doncic at 12K. You know what you're getting with him at this point. He scored 70-plus DK fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games, and he's the Mavericks' entire offense at this point. That's reflected in his usage rate, which has risen over 40% in 4 of his last 5 contests. The Pistons are the perfect matchup for him because they're not nearly good enough to slow Luka down, but they've been playing hard and keeping games close lately, so he probably won't be able to rest for an extended period of time. Detroit has also been pushing the ball more lately, ranking 10th in pace over their last 10 games. That should help create more opportunities for Luka as the Mavs rank dead last in pace on the season. The bottom line is, as you said, you're paying up for guaranteed production here.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have to talk hoops. Appreciate you. Love you. Mean it. Paul Bruno has some explaining to do after what we saw out of his Toronto Maple Leafs last night. An epic, epic collapse. Something we've gotten used to with his team right after this. All right, we got our hockey panel here this morning to talk. Oh, yes, hockey. The riveting RotoWire duo of AJ Scholz and Paul Bruno. Paul, hold on a second. Quick stat here. So the Leafs blow their 7th game when holding a 4-1 lead since Game 7 of the 2013 playoffs. That was in the first round. No other NHL team has 4 such losses. I don't know if I've seen like a 5-1 collapse the way that I witnessed in the game that I witnessed last night against the Panthers.
It's the joy of being a Leaf fan, Emerson. I mean, you take the highs with the lows. Sadly, those lows are like tattoos on me. I wear them for a while.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, shocking. But
yeah.
The way they talked after the game, I was satisfied too. When you look at what they've done in the last couple of weeks, they've beaten all the heavyweights and they come out with an overtime tie even in that circumstance. So I guess I'll take it. 7 points out of 8 against those 4 Titans in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, AJ, Toronto looking like it is in postseason form already. But last night in that game, Jonathan Huberdeau becoming the first player in franchise history to top 100 points during that incredible comeback. But speaking of 100 points here, AJ, Johnny Cadreau of the Flames trying to join the 100-point club. Like, he has never done that in his career. He's 5 away, so unlikely to get there this evening, although he did have 5 assists in a game versus Edmonton back on March 26th. He's been hot lately. Do you want to pay up for him on the wing tonight?
Well, Emerson, let's start by pointing out the fact that your Bruins did a big favor for the Leafs as well here in dropping a game to Detroit. Like, I don't feel bad that the Penguins lost to Colorado. A lot of people lose to Colorado. But losing to Detroit did not look so good. And way to do Paul's Leafs a big favor there.
Somebody called that yesterday, by the way.
Nobody called that. Don't pretend. Anyway, back to Johnny Cadreau. It does make a lot of sense. It's a decent matchup with the Ducks here, but when you consider that the Red Wings have allowed the most goals in the league over the last 2 weeks, despite beating Boston last night, I think you have to consider paying up for the top of the price range here and go with Kyle Connor at 8,400. Yes, he's returning from missing the last 3 games due to COVID, but prior to that, this is a guy that racked up 26 points in 15 contests, including 8 multi-point games over that stretch. I mean, when you consider he's scoring at least 2 points a game in pretty much every other game right now, I think it's worth paying all the way up at 8,400. Even though that's going to cost you a K more than Cadreau, he's just been too good lately to not at least consider going all the way to the top.
Okay, what do you want to do here, Paul?
Well, I'm looking at pairing up one of 3 different pairs of wingers here. I'll explain myself because there's 3 lopsided matchups, and I think that each of these duos could really pay off. The high end goes to the Winnipeg Jets, Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers. They're $8,400 and $6,700 respectively. They get that matchup against Detroit that AJ touched on. They're on the second of back-to-backs. They did come up with maybe their signature win of the season yesterday, I'll say that, and I did call it, by the way. And Cadreau and Tkachuk, they get a very soft matchup in Anaheim. This team is more into celebrating Ryan Getzlaf's last few days. They probably had a blowout last night after he announced. And so I look for Cadreau and Tkachuk to pad their stats in that one. $7,400 and $7,000, that price tag for those 2. And then the best deal of the night comes from St. Louis visiting with Seattle, who comes calling on them. The home game for the Blues features Tarasenko at $6,400 per on at $6,000. Those guys have been on fire of late, and I think that's where I'm going to go.
All right, where do you want to go then at center, Paul? I'm looking at Stamkos here. He has 11 points scored in his last 7 games.
Yeah, he's a very good pick, too. I'm going to go a little bit cheaper than him, though, and look at the game between Vancouver and Vegas. And 2 centers that are opposing each other, Jack Eichel, $7,400, and JT Miller, $7,200. They're both on a hot streaks, and you can make a case for either one. If you want to save a little bit of money, go to the guy who's centering the hottest line in the hockey outside of Toronto, and that's Elias Lindholm at Anaheim, $6,500 his price tag. And if you want to really go cheap, there's a couple of guys from St. Louis who get a nice matchup against Seattle. Shen and O'Reilly, $4,900 and $4,800 for the 1-2 punch at center for St. Louis tonight.
Okay. Scheifele's there at 6'2", maybe facing the Red Wings that are coming off a real high of knocking off the Bruins, AJ?
It's an intriguing option and one certainly to consider. I think I prefer to look, especially if you're going to play some GPPs, maybe grab somebody with a little bit lower drafted percentage here. Evgeny Kuznetsov is going to move into the top line spot with Ovechkin. Now they're going up against the Lightning, but the Lightning haven't looked quite so, Stanley Cup champion-esque of late. Kuznetsov, for his part, 6,300. He's also on that top power play unit. He should get plenty of chances. He's got at least a point in all but one of his last 14 games, and that was without playing with Ovechkin. Now you move him into that top line. 35 shots over that 14-game stretch as well, so a decent floor there. I think Kuznetsov is a good, especially a GPP target tonight.
All right, guys, need you to go quick here on the blue line. AJ, you've been paying up for dudes back on defense lately. You going to do it again tonight?
Well, let's clarify. I paid down from Mike Matheson last night, and that paid off big time as he picked up a goal. And I'm going to do the same tonight. Look, Quinn Hughes is questionable to play for Vancouver tonight. And if he's out, Oliver Ekman-Larsson will be the quarterback of the #1 power play unit. He's just 3,300 tonight. He's also found his offensive game of late with 4 helpers in his last 5 contests. So paying all the way down for Oliver Ekman-Larsson makes a ton of sense for Vancouver tonight.
A pay up spot or a pay down spot for you, Paul?
I'm hammering the mismatches, so I'm going to pay up here. Alex Pietrangelo, 5 goals from the defense spot, 30 shots on goal in his last 10 games played, cost $6,500 against Vancouver. Josh Morrissey, $5,400 against Detroit. That tasty matchup features him coming in with 4 goals and 3 helpers in his last 10 with 30 shots on goal. Rasmus Anderson, I've been on this guy all season long. He's in my season-long teams, wherever I can get him. $5,100. He's on a hot streak, too, with 6 points in his last 10 games played. Again, featuring that Anaheim matchup.
Tremendous work, you two. We got to take a quick break because we're going to talk some Masters DFS prices right after this. All right, we started the show honoring Reed's wish of talking Masters odds. Now we'll do it on the fantasy side. Our panel now consisting of Jeff Frolick and Riti Fowler and RotoWire senior golf writer Len Hochberg. You guys tell me right now as we do some PGA Tour price check, are the golfers worth their salaries for the Masters? Len, I'll just ask you this one about Tiger's $8,500. I mean, if you can take like the emotion out of this thing, do you believe he's a good DFS play at this price?
I think if we took the emotion out of this, then Tiger Woods would not be $8,500. The emotion is in it. I'm guessing maybe he'd be $7,700 without the emotion. But it is what it is, $8,500. When I put out my rankings last week before all of this going on at Augusta, I had him making the cut. I do not see much more of that happening. I just think that come Sunday on CBS, when they come on Sunday afternoon, Tiger will be done for the day. We will see highlights, of course. We will not see live shots of Tiger Woods. And I think Jeff's lower back will remain safe for another year.
All right. Well, Ulrich, his good buddy Justin Thomas is 10-3 here. And listen, the winner at Augusta the past decade, the champion, is ranked inside the top 25 in the world. So it feels like those fluke winners, like those years, are at least gone right now. But is JT worth paying up for?
Yeah, JT is definitely worth paying up for. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of people are targeting Justin Thomas this week, and the fact that he may end up as one of the most popular plays on DraftKings. I mean, this is a player who's gained strokes on approach in 12 straight events. He said himself he feels very close. He's got experience at Augusta, and I think he's actually a little bit underpriced compared to just the recent form that he's coming in. I mean, I get Dustin Johnson's a past winner, and he's looked okay, but Justin Thomas's body of work over the last few months is just better. It's quite frankly, it's better than John Rahm's probably too. So Justin Thomas at 10-3, I think if anything, he's just slightly underpriced this week, and I think a lot of people are keying up on that. And also with the fact that, the recent form, the strokes gained approach or around the green, has been good lately too. So Justin Thomas, if anything, to me, just slightly underpriced this week.
Yeah, dude, where was it? I saw the stat. So strokes game overall ranks first in this field in his last 24 rounds, Reed.
You're really into the strokes game lately, Emerson. I really dig how much of a stat guru.
Big SG guy right here. Big SG.
And listen, I honestly, real talk, I learned from you two doing our show on like Wednesdays. I'm like, wait, this is kind of important. That's why I'm back in Billy Ho this week. Go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, by transitive property, he's backing Billy Horschel. So he's big into the quantitative, and then he takes some like gypsy stat of the transitive power of Tiger giving it to Billy Ho in the driving range.
I
So
hate you guys.
the juxtaposition. But like, I mean, look, Justin Thomas is fine. Like, there's nothing against JT. But how about a case for Scotty Scheffler at the most expensive at 11,000? It seems crazy. It seems like it should be not that, right? Like, it shouldn't be 11,000 for Scotty Scheffler. But I mean, we all know that he's won 3 in the last 5 events. But let's date back to what he's done in the 4 majors last year. His worst finish was at the Masters, 18th. His other 3 were 8, 7, and 8. That was last year before this guy has been before he ascended to number 1 in the entire world. No one's going to be playing Scotty Scheffler because they all think that it's too expensive a price, and look at all the guys below him. So I don't mind JT, but I'm going all the way to the top of DFS with Scotty Scheffler.
All right, Len, where's JT on your radar?
Well, I had him at 6th in my rankings, and it scares me that he's that low. I did have Scheffler, Rahm, Cam Smith, Spieth, and Koepka. There's just not enough room in the top 5 for all these good golfers. It would not surprise me if Justin Thomas wins the tournament. Granted, he has only 1 top 10 in 6 career Masters, which is a little bit troubling, but he's just too good to dismiss, and I think his price is right.
All right, Reed, let's see, 7 dudes in the 10K range. Rory is the last one sitting there right at 10K even. It's the one spot, the one major that has eluded him here, dude. So are you confident enough to roster him, thinking maybe this is it? He gets over the hump, gets that monkey off his back.
Yeah, I think Rory with any one of these guys is going to be a popular build this week because the narrative, we all play narratives. That's why we watch this game. That's why we love it. That's why we play it, is because we partly want to take into the narrative, and why Tiger Woods is the most bet on golfer by 2x of the next person. And Rory McIlroy will always get that sort of narrative bump. Look, last year I tweeted this out. He was 14.7% rostered last year, which was, I believe, 2nd lowest or 3rd lowest, right in the middle. And I think, and that was a price tag a little bit higher than this. So now you get a cheaper Rory. Jeff's already tweeted it out like 3 weeks ago that he's betting Rory McIlroy. Everybody and their mothers are playing Rory because this is his 14th or his 15th Masters. I can't remember which one. And he's now setting up very well for it. We saw a top 10 at the Genesis at Riviera, which is a good comp. And we know what he can do. If this course is going to play windy and it's going to play even longer because of the forecast, and it's not going to play exactly wet because they have that heating system underneath the fairways and greens here, then Rory McIlroy is set up here. So there's nothing against Rory. It's just, can he do it?
All right, he's getting to that mid-30s range now, Len. 8th crack at completing his career Grand Slam at Augusta National.
It just seems that something always seems to go wrong with Rory at Augusta, and he still might justify his $10,000 price with one of his famous backdoor top 10s. He's Rory. He's pretty popular, but I just think there are a few guys on my list ahead of him. I would be thrilled to see him win. It would be fun for the sport, fun for golf, fun to talk about, but I just don't see it happening.
Okay, Jeff, how about you, man?
No, I mean, look, I'm obviously leading the Rory bandwagon this week. And I honestly, I'm still pretty confident about this pick. I mean, 3 of Rory's last 6 wins have come after missed cuts. His big body of work over the last 4 or 5 months has been very good. The around the green game has been sharp. I think it's good that he missed the cut last week. I really do. I think the pressure is off Rory right now, and that's when he performs his best. And the only thing I disagree with what Reed said is I don't think he's going to be that popular this week at 10K. People put a lot of stock into trends and stuff like that, and the trends with Masters winners is they typically don't miss cuts coming in. I think that's got people off Rory. I think the fact Cam Smith and Jordan Spieth are less than him in the salary, and then the psychological point that he's right at 10K, and you've got all these elite names like Cantley, Schauffele, Spieth, Smith under 10K. I think he's a great tournament play for the Millie Maker. He's going off late Thursday afternoon, which isn't going to be as windy as Friday afternoon. I'm betting Rory first round leader. I'm betting him outright. I really think this is his year.
Yeah, a couple Millie Makers on there, everyone. Make sure you build your lineups for it. We got 1 minute left in show. Len, your pick to win the Masters.
Preseason pick was Cameron Smith. The only thing that makes me upset about Cameron Smith is he's winning too much. How many times can he win? Can he go Players, his last start, and the Masters back-to-back? But He's playing great, Cameron Smith.
Yeah, Reed doesn't like him on the sportsbook side of things, but who do you like in DFS to win the Masters? Let's go. Just win the Masters overall, Reed.
Brooks Koepka. I mean, this guy is amazing. So let's get Brooksy with the green jacket.
Dude, that would be hot. Speaking of hot, Jeff, bring us home.
Rory McIlroy. Tiger Woods in the field.
Ooh.
Rory's going to put on a show for Tiger in his comeback year. Give Rory his first green jacket. Rory's got to get a green jacket. I mean, it would be a crime against humanity if he didn't get one before his career ended.
Totally agree. Okay, guys, Reed, Jeff, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. We've got a Masters edition, all Masters of the slates. That's on the DraftKings YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter pages. I'll see everybody then. Have a great